What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Six, presented by Old El Paso. DJ, Bucky, Rhett, back with you today. We've got a lot to get to, including a Monday night game and some trade deadline stuff, which, Buck, leads me to the question. If you could trade Rhett, would you trade him, or are we going to keep him and continue to try and build on what we're doing here with the pod?
Oh, so look, I'm a developmental guy, so I believe in keeping and developing. I believe we can take him where he is and try and find a way to put him in his best light. So yeah, we'll keep him. We'll hold on to him. We won't let him go elsewhere. We'll continue to try and salvage what we can get from Rhett.
I'm told that I have an untradeable contract, so it's for you guys. No trade clause, boys. Sorry.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. Rhett's sticking around. All right, let's jump into this. It's time for Monday Night Recap, presented by Old El Paso. And this was it was kind of a surprising game, I would say, with the Minnesota Vikings, even though they were at home, and even though the 49ers were without Deebo Samuel. A game that the Minnesota Vikings kind of controlled throughout. I guess let's start on the Vikings side of things here, Buck. Just biggest takeaways on a night where Kirk Cousins played pretty darn well.
Kirk Cousins, Jordan Addison showed up in a big way. I felt like Kevin O'Connell was in his bag from the beginning of the game. Did a really good job of creating opportunities for Jordan Addison to utilize the route running and stuff that we talked about when we evaluated him coming out of USC. And it's another confirmation that when you're evaluating wide receivers, go for the guys that are the craftsmen, the skill guys, the guys that understand how to get open, because what he was able to do on Monday night really displayed all the things that you want to see from a high-end receiver over and over and over again. He worked and got open, and Kirk Cousins found him, and it looked easy. I can only imagine what this team may look like down the stretch when Justin Jefferson comes back and Jordan Addison is able to kind of take this momentum that he's created and build upon that confidence that is beginning to show up in his play.
Yeah, and I love the competitiveness that we saw from him. Obviously, got kind of out-muscled in a tough kind of contested catch scenario with Charvarius Ward on one play, and then bounced right back and ripped the ball away from Ward, and then went in for the score. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I guess I don't mean to spoil our next segment coming up here, but I think we can temper down the trade talk of all the Vikings players right now with the way that they've played the last couple of weeks. It feels like they've got something that they can try to build on here moving forward. I would look at this from the defensive side, DJ, and then kick it over to you, because I know that you've had a chance to see this Brian Flores Vikings defense as they played the Chargers a couple of weeks ago. It just felt like they were going to, sell out against the run, right? And they were going to do everything they could to kind of shut down that outside zone from the Niners and keep Christian McCaffrey under wraps for most of the game. And to do that, they brought in the beef, right? They, essentially played with 5 down linemen. You and I were kind of talking, and then, had Jordan Hicks, and then brought, their nickel back in as kind of a linebacker role there too. And so, they wanted to occupy those offensive linemen of the 49ers and just make things difficult for McCaffrey to find some of those seams and those gaps as he's kind of stretching things out wide. So I just thought that game plan ended up working out really well. I think especially, DJ, against a team without Deebo Samuel on this night.
Yeah, no Deebo. Well, look, the Vikings without Justin Jefferson is the biggest loss of anybody that wasn't playing in this game.
Sure,
so for them to still get that win is huge. But to go back to your point on the way they were playing with Brian Flores, I saw it, in the Charger game in there in person, where Keenan Allen had a zillion catches in that ball game, because that's the way it looks like a punt rush when they get up to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
They are going to not only use that to try and eliminate the run, discourage you from running the ball, but also look, they have one big time rusher and Danielle Hunter, but I don't think they love their rush group that they have. So they win with numbers, and they play aggressive, and they're going to come after you down after down after down. They're going to try and speed the quarterback up. And watching this game, I thought Purdy played okay. I didn't think it was a terrible game for him when you go through it. He has the 2 picks. One almost looked like a little miscommunication on a dig route with Jennings, and then the other one was late. But he completed a lot of balls. I was just looking at this going, okay, do they have somebody that can make you pay for playing this style? Like Keenan Allen with the Chargers, he was able to make them pay for playing that way. As good as all their skill guys are, Buck, I almost wonder if at the deadline, and we'll get to trades here in a little bit in this next segment, but it almost feels like, man, they're missing somebody that could really make you pay for playing like that, whether it's just an over-the-top, big-time speed guy or what have you. I mean, they hit McCaffrey out, and that was a jailbreak, and he got out and was gone. But they've got to find a way to make people pay for playing that aggressive with their front.
For all the things I love about the 49ers offense, it's an offense that is more dependent upon the play caller more so than the playmakers, meaning a lot of the stuff that they do in the passing game is Kyle Shanahan's creativity and his genius that creates those big plays. But what they don't have is what we saw on the other side of Jordan Addison, like a pure route runner. Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk are great catch and run playmakers, but they're not necessarily the guys that you line up on the backside and say, hey, run these exotic routes to create space and separation. They are missing that difference maker, that vertical threat, that guy that can give you the home run ball, that can keep the defense from creeping up. It's something that they certainly should explore at the trade deadline, because we saw in this game, man, they made them play half-court basketball and they could not move the ball down the field consistently throughout the game.
Yeah, and just kind of getting back to the point on, being without Debo, I wonder if that affect their personnel groupings, in this matchup, because, they do run some 11 personnel, right? 21 and 11 are kind of the way in which they operate. And then we only saw about 11 snaps of 11 personnel in this game, only ran it out of that 3 times. I thought that maybe it might help kind of loosen up the way that, the Vikings were trying to play them with so many big guys up front. If you could bring in, and start to convert a little bit, using 11, kind of lighten up the box a little bit, then maybe try to find a way to run it that way. Just didn't end up working the way that they wanted to execute it against this Vikings defense. But yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. The way that the 49ers have had to operate depth-wise at wide receiver the last couple of years, whether it's Ayuk that's been nicked up or Debo Samuel, does kind of feel like maybe they could use an extra body in there, and then certainly one that can exercise some speed down the field too. So maybe that's something we'll get into here when we start talking trades.
Yeah, we'll get to the trades just a moment. I do want to swing back to the Vikings. One thing I wanted to mention as well. You talked about Cousins. I don't want to sell him short on how well he's played.
Played very well.
Obviously, I don't see he's not going anywhere at the deadline, and I'd be surprised if he goes anywhere in the offseason. Minnesota's not going to find a better player than him at that position at this time. They're just not. He's playing like a top 10 guy. And when you look at this offense now, when you saw it last night against that 49ers front, Darisaw is a really good young left tackle. O'Neal is a really good right tackle. He's 28 years old. You've make that trade for Hawkinson. He's a top 5 tight end in this league. You've got Jefferson's the premier wideout. Now it looks like Jordan Addison is a 2+. He could be one of the best 2s in the league, and he's probably a 1 for some teams. Like, they have the makings of a really, really good offense. And we always say, Buck, get it to you on this one, but we've always talked about the running back position, and we've said, it's not a simple answer in terms of what you invest in that position. It's not the same for every team. I believe if you have a constructed team that's ready to win right now, at that point in time, if you want to drop a running back in where all 4 or 5 of those premier years to start his career are meaningful, then go ahead and do it. That's why, to me, I think this Vikings team's ready. That offense, you drop a premier back in there. I think they're 29th in rushing or 28th in rushing in the league. They're only averaging.
Didn't they have one?
Not much.
Didn't they have?
Well, but Dalvin's not that guy anymore. You watch Dalvin with the Jets. He's not that guy.
Yeah, I was thinking. Well, I mean, they kind of had one, but no. But you're right, and that's why they went out and tried to get Cam Akers. They're trying to find someone that can do it. Madison played better last night, but he still doesn't have the juice. But if you put a legitimate 5-star running back behind this team with what they have on the perimeter, it gives opponents problems. When I think about the Vikings and I think about where they're going, they've lost 4 one-score games. Last year, all those things went in their favor. They're not far off. The one thing that I will say about this, because talking to Vikings officials in the summertime when we went up for training camp, they talked about how last year the Niners came up and beat them up. And so this was a test of their physicality and toughness. There's no doubt in my mind that Brian Flores' presence, his arrival, has changed some of the tenor in terms of how the Vikings play. They may have taken a step back early this year, but keep an eye on them. This team may be one of the teams that kind of sneaks in the back door in the postseason because they're playing good defense and they've adopted more of a tough guy persona.
Yeah, and what's one of those things we say is kind of, roster builders, it's never a finished product, right? You're always looking. And, credit to the Vikings personnel department for going to get Dalton Risner off the scrap heap. Guy played all 66 snaps this last week in his second game with the Vikings, and they did not allow a sack against this 49ers, vaunted defensive front, Nick Bosa, and all, they allowed some pressures. Kirk got hit a couple of times, but for the most part, they did a pretty dang good job against one of the league's best fronts. And, they didn't run the ball a ton, but the fact that you can keep Kirk upright, though, as many times as he threw it, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, to that point, they run it fewer times a game than any team in the league. So they are, I think it's 19 attempts a game. So they are not running the ball. It is all on Kirk Cousins. And look, he's delivered, and this team is right in the thick of it right now, right where they want to be. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, I'm gonna kick this trade discussion off, and right where we just left off, talk about the Vikings maybe needing something, maybe being buyers instead of sellers. I've got a name for you. We'll get to that right after this. All right, I talked about the Vikings, a team that could be in the market for a trade. Keep in mind, we're a week away here. October 31st is the trade deadline. So we're going to go through a bunch of names and some teams that could be buyers and maybe see if we can't play a little matchmaker here. Again, this is not based off any inside information that any of the three of us have, just things that we would like to see. And Rhett, I'll get it to you on my thought with the Minnesota Vikings that we just to kind of pull that together here. You look at that offense. And then all of a sudden, when you get Justin Jefferson back and you've got Addison going and you've got Hawkinson going and you can pass protect, and all of a sudden we want to check the ball down, and all of a sudden now I'm checking the ball down to Saquon Barkley instead of Alexander Madison. What does that look like for the Minnesota Vikings?
That's an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, with the way the Vikings season or the Giants season has certainly been trending, and with Daniel Jones out, and although they did just get a win over the Commanders this last week, you just don't know what that long-term prognosis is. So I think they're one of those teams, the Giants, it feels like, that are kind of in no man's land right now. Like, do you feel like this thing is lost, or in the next couple of weeks before this deadline comes up, if you can really turn it around, then maybe that slows some of that momentum on that conversation. But I like the idea you're going with there. The Broncos are a real interesting one here because, Sean Payton has talked about not throwing up white flags and, not wanting to be, sellers and just, have a garage sale with that team and those roster parts there. But there are some intriguing pieces. You think about teams that are in the market for left tackles. Garrett Bowles has got 1 year left on his deal, and it's not, incredibly beyond this year. It's not incredibly, tough to deal with for a good left tackle. What if you worked a 1-for-1 deal here? Chase Young is playing, in his last year. They didn't climb the 5th-year option. The Broncos have sent essentially all of their edge rushers out. Von Miller's gone. Bradley Chubb's gone. What if you worked a deal where you sent Bowles to the Commanders, who've given up the most sacks in all of football, and then you bring Chase Young in on essentially a prove it for the final second half of the season, plays well, maybe you can get him back on one of those 1-year deals? I don't know, just kind of spitballing with a 1-for-1 deal, which we don't see too often.
Look, man, I like that. I think the Washington Commanders certainly should be auctioning off some of their pieces. Chase Young is a viable one. I think Montez Sweat is another one. Now, I would like to go back to Minnesota because you guys talk about Minnesota's offense. I'm trying to find a complimentary pass rusher for Danielle Hunter. I know they got Marcus Davenport, but if this team is able to eke out a couple of wins and get back into the mix, another pass rusher would do wonders for this thing. So think about a high-energy guy like Montez Sweat being able to play with Danielle Hunter and what they could do in that cover zero, bluff, and blitz scheme. I like Montez Sweat coming off the edge. I would like to see him play for a team that maybe wins some games. I saw Jonathan Allen's frustration. I was sure that Montez Sweat shares some of those sentiments because he hasn't won a lot since he's been in D.C.
Yeah, no, let me get on both those real quick here. Going back to Rhett's, with Garrett Bowles, I think he has another year left on his contract. So
he does, one more.
You'd be getting Chase Young in a rental year where you're trying. To me, I think the Broncos are looking to the future. They want assets for the future.
I agree.
To me, yeah. That's why to me, like if you're going to say Garrett Bowles, to me, I'm more Garrett Bowles to the Jets for a draft pick. Where they have some insurance now. They have a right. They could play him at right. They could play him at left. If Mekhi Becton doesn't stay healthy, you've got an option there. I think that would be some insurance. And think about Hackett. Even though Bowles was hurt last year, Hackett would have some knowledge and information there on Garrett Bowles. And then Bucky's on the Vikings. I love that idea of trying to go out and get an edge rusher to complement Danielle Hunter. The Vikings, when you look at the space, according to Spot Track, they have They have the 8th most cap space right now. They have 10 million. But I always caution people when you're looking up cap numbers and saying teams can or can't make a deal. Just keep in mind here, Rhett, as you raise your hand, that according to this, the Philadelphia Eagles are minus 2.8 million. There's ways, as Howie Roseman proves every year, you can move the money around. You can figure it out, is what I'm getting at, Rhett.
Yeah, and if you're looking at teams in terms of pressure percentage that could use a little bit of a bump, Bucky, I'm kind of looking at your Jaguars. Obviously, Josh Allen's played really well this year, but what if he got a running mate with the way that the Jags have been playing as of late? What if the Falcons, who have an inside track at winning the NFC South division, found a way to get some pressure on the passer? We talk about the guys like, Montez Sweat, and, I think Danielle Hunter's out of the mix now, as we kind of been talking about, but a Chase Young. What about a Carl Lawson? Guys like that just haven't done a lot for the teams that they are playing for right now, but have some of that talent. I think the Jags and the Falcons could be interesting plays there for an edge rusher.
Yeah, good spots. I mean, like,
here's my
Falcons being in the thing. I mean, like, no, you're just talking about, because right now I'm just thinking, like, with the Falcons, you have Calais Campbell, who just got I think he notched his 100th sack a week or so ago. They really don't have anyone that really scares you. I mean, like, we like Grady Jarrett and those things, but they need someone off the edge that can get after, someone that can dominate off the edge. Because if we're taking a baseball type approach or an NBA basketball type approach, you're looking for that missing piece that can help you over the last 9 games to get you over the hump. The Falcons need a pass rusher. They could definitely use that.
All right, I think we're missing something here, guys. I'm looking at this stuff. Let me give you some information here. You know the team that has the most salary cap space right now? It's the San Francisco 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers. Okay.
Jerry Jeudy, come on down.
Forever. We've talked about it forever, about the collision course that the 49ers and the Eagles are on, okay? Let's go back to last year. What does Kyle Shanahan do? He goes out and gets McCaffrey, and that took their offense to another level. You look, the Eagles already made their move. They went out and got Kevin Byard, a multi-year Pro Bowl safety to fill a void for them. So they've made their move. It's time for a counter move. And when you look, I was looking up the 49ers draft picks next year, because they've made trades over the last few years. They have a 1, a 2. That with 2 comp 3s, they'll have 3 3s. They have 2 4s. They have 2 5s, 2 6s, and a 7. So you have a team that's pushed all their chips all in. You've got a quarterback on a rookie deal. You've got the most cap space. The team that you're on a collision course with has already made a move. I don't think this is going to be a tiptoe move for Kyle Shanahan and for John Lynch. I think they do something big, man. They are all in right now. So to me,
gotta be.
I don't know who the biggest name you want to come up with. We talked about wideouts. Maybe get somebody who can take the top off. Is that Sutton? Is that Jerry Jeudy? I don't know. Is there somebody bigger out there? I mean, McCaffrey is darn as near as big a name as you can get, and they went and got him last year, Buck. I mean, I think we're missing something with this team. Keep an eye on the 49ers, because it doesn't feel like this is a team that's going to go quiet. This feels like a team that's ready to make a big, bold move.
Yeah, so if you think about big, bold moves, there are a couple ways that you can look at it. If you look at it at the wide receiver position, what about the KG veteran down in Tampa who's not happy with his deal, Mike Evans? Look, you talk about a rental.
Great one.
A rental agreement where they can take him, put him in the mix, give him another big body. You talk about that 11 personnel package and how you have to defend that with Christian McCaffrey in the running game. That certainly would change it. The Niners are always interesting because you talk about the arms race that is the battle between the Eagles and the Niners. When the Eagles went and got Kevin Byard, it is almost, hey man, you need to have a checkmate move if you're the 49ers. Don't know what that is, but it has to be something big, because right now you look at the Eagles roster with Julio Jones, who is not the same player, but they are certainly going up. They're trying to load up for bear when it comes to the postseason run.
Yeah, Jeudy. So, those are the names we've been talking about for months, it feels like. What about Marquise Brown? What about Hollywood in Arizona? Obviously they've been competitive, but I don't know that they've got playoff designs here. I mean, he's definitely a guy that gets up and down the field pretty quickly. I don't know if that strikes you as the as that kind of haymaker trade that you're talking about, Deej, but just kind of thinking about other wide receivers out there. I don't know. You got any others in mind?
Yeah, well, The only other thing I can think of is I'm just looking through the list, and research did a great job, and I think Drew might actually be research on this project, but with a bunch of names that have showed up in different articles, right? Just different names. Well, the most talented player that we've seen show up on these lists is Brian Burns. So even though I'm thinking offense, and they're going to try and do something to juice up the offense, maybe it's just, hey, what are you going to do when we've got Nick Bosa on one side, and now we've got Brian Burns on the other, and we've got Hargrave and Armstead inside? Like, maybe that's what they do. But they've got the assets, they've got money, they've got picks, and they're all in. So that's the, maybe that's the biggest name that I can come up with on this list, Buck. But it just feels like there's no way we get to Halloween and the 49ers haven't done something. There's no way. We've got a little international action. This November, Sunday Morning Football debuts in Frankfurt, Germany. On NFL Network, first on November 5th, the Dolphins take on the Chiefs. Then on the 12th, the Colts face the Patriots. Rise, shine, and watch only on NFL Network and streaming on NFL Plus. All right, guys, let's get to the rookies. The rookie draft last week, the results. Look, I feel good about it. I got 7 points. Got 3 from Kincaid, the tight end. I got 1 from Puka Nacua, a second place spot there. And then McLaughlin, I don't know. I feel bad taking these 3 points because Bijan Robinson barely played and Zach Evans didn't play. But I'm going to take him regardless. Buck got 3 points for Addison on Monday night. He got the 1 for Bijan. And then Rhett, you got the 1 point for Laporta, a little second place on the tight end finish there. I got past Buck. I think we're still neck and neck. I think we're distancing ourselves a little bit from Rhett. Rhett, you're going to have to...
Plenty of time, boys.
You're going to have to step your game up this week, man. You're going to have to step your game up. But I want to talk about one of the guys from last week, which was Dalton Kincaid, who scored me a bunch of points. But with Dawson Knox hurt now, Buck, it feels like Kincaid, who had 8 catches in that game, he's got a chance to really start getting going. He missed the game. I believe it was a concussion. I feel like this is him kind of settling in. I think he could get on a little bit of a run here.
Yeah, it's time. It's time for Dalton Kincaid to be a major player for them. And what you like about Kincaid, he's outstanding route runner. He is working over the middle of the field and really controlling the middle. And with all the attention that defenses have to pay to Stephon Diggs, it really creates a huge void. And we saw that as this chemistry and connectivity continues to be established between Josh Allen and Kincaid, balls are going to head in his direction. Without Dawson Knox, he has to be, I would say, the second in line when it comes to the passing game. Yeah, I think Dalton Kincaid is about to explode when it comes to the numbers, the production.
All right, I've got 2 bits of good news for Rhett here. Number 1, there's no buys this week. No buys, so you've got your choice of all the rookies. You're not missing anybody. We're not doing the quarterbacks, by the way, because of the injuries that we've had there. So we're gonna go again with the running back, wide receiver, tight end. And Rhett, the other piece of good news is you get the first pick, man. No pressure here.
By the way, I think the fact that you guys didn't want to go quarterbacks this week is just straight up cowardly. I was 100% ready to take Tyson Bagent with the number 1 pick. Okay, after what he did this last week, going up against your Chargers here, Deej. So the fact that you guys don't want to do that, totally fine. I get it. We'll adjust and we'll go back to wide receiver, tight end, running backs. So I don't think I have to take the tight end number 1 this week. I think we've shown now that there's a couple of tight ends that can make some moves here. I don't know what to think about Bijan. Obviously, he's been the number 1 pick. I feel like almost every week. Had the headaches last week or whatever it was. Didn't play. Do I trust him? Gosh, that's a tough one, especially with the way that Jordan Addison has been playing with Justin Jefferson out. So I think I got to go Jordan Addison here with the number 1 overall pick, boys.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
All right, you're going to go Jordan Addison.
What kind of fantasy
number
strategy?
1 pick.
That's what we're doing.
Yep.
I like that. I like that.
Wow.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to I feel good about the receiver options that I've got left. Running back is a little bit of a crapshoot, so I think I'm going to wait on those 2. I think I'm going to go back to the well. Dalton Kincaid took care of me last week. I thought he was the best tight end coming into the draft, and it's looked like he's starting to now get into a groove. Laporta's been awesome throughout the whole year, but I think Kincaid's getting ready to go on a run. I'm going to go with Kincaid from Buffalo as my tight end.
Woo! All right, tight end.
Oh, man, that's great, man. If this happened,
Buck, you got 2.
We'll run up the card real quick. Bijan Robinson, we're taking him right away. No matter what the doubters say about you, doesn't matter. We're taking him. You fall to us. We appreciate you being there. And then, look, the tough thing is trying to figure out which wide receiver to go. Let's go out on a limb, and I'm going to go with Jackson Smith and Jigba being able to take a bigger role. We saw him get a touchdown. He had an opportunity. So let's bring a new name into the mix. Give me JSN. Let's do it. Do it for the people.
All right, I like that. New name coming off of a nice game. I mean, I have to take Puka. I mean, he's been good to me.
Yeah.
I feel like Rhett still thinks like he has some type of ownership here, which is not true. But I'm gonna go with Puka. I'm gonna go with Puka here. Rhett, you got two more.
Yes, I do. Okay, so all the receivers have been taken. So I get, let me see, I'm going to go. I liked what Jahmyr Gibbs did last week and actually started him in some actual fantasy football leagues. So with the Raiders coming to town on a Monday night, I feel like I'm going to go Jahmyr Gibbs as my runner. All right, and then I need a tight end, so give me the double stack. Give me Laporta. Right there. Gibbs and Laporta.
Big
both
on the Lions
Lions
this week.
Stacking them. Let's do it. Getting back on track
Big
against
on
the Raiders.
All right, let me.
That's great.
I feel great about this. I'm loyal. Last week, people say, maybe the other running backs didn't play. Maybe you don't give him the credit for those big 5 points that he got me. But I say no. I say Jaleel McLaughlin gave me 3 points last week. And playing against a Kansas City Chiefs team that I expect to get out to a little bit of a lead in this game, we're going to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. I'm going to go with Jaleel McLaughlin.
Did you just pick the same team you had last week?
I think I did.
He
I
did.
Right back. Wait, I had Kincaid.
He went back to back.
Same squad. Why not? It's not broken. Why would I switch it, Lucky? Why would I switch my names? They all delivered.
Good for you. That's big.
Go ahead,
All right, Buck, close us down.
Well, look, we're coming off a disappointing performance. The Raiders got absolutely obliterated by the Chicago Bears. So let's see if we can get the tight end more involved. I know we had Brian Hoyer last week. Hopefully they'll do the right thing. If it's not Jimmy G, it's Aiden O'Connell. So maybe the ball can find the hands of some would-be playmakers. Let's go Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. Let's see him do something for the Raiders, and let's see if he can get it done for me. Go back to the world.
By the way, do you notice once again a guy who has no pride in his school? I mean, Josh Downs just puts up big numbers last week, and Buck just refuses to take him.
He just didn't want to do it
out there. I mean, good night.
Well, it's not him. It's not his fault. It's Gardner Minshew's fault. It's Gardner Minshew's fault. I don't like the quarterback.
Well, I'll just tell you
he's
this.
delivering, even with Gardner Minshew.
I mean, if we had the opportunity to choose individual defensive players, guys, I'd 100% choose PFF's highest graded linebacker last week in Micah McFadden. Okay? Absolutely would do it. So I think next week that's what we should do. We should do an all defensive rookie draft. DB, linebacker, and defensive lineman. What do you think?
Oh, okay. You got to find the scoring system.
I'll tell you
sacks, PBUs, tackles.
Well, Micah's not a rookie,
though,
so I guess I couldn't do that. But
that doesn't work. But I do like that background better than the shadow game that you had going on, Rhett. So I do like the background there.
No,
that's a big upgrade.
How about that?
We're back.
All right. Yeah. All right, this is going to be a big week for us. We'll see how this rookie draft pans out next week. I've got a tiny little baby lead right now, but I like Bucky's draft. I could be in trouble. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into some top 5 defensive linemen, top 5 picks, defensive linemen last decade, how they've done. We'll get to that right after this. It's time for Sacks and Quarterbacks presented by Campbell's, and we are looking at top 5 picks since the 2017 draft that were defensive linemen. How have they done? Have they been as advertised, maybe a little better, maybe a little worse? The list of names is long here with Will Anderson, Trayvon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson, Thibodeau, Chase Young, Nick Bosa, Quinnen Williams, Cleve Farrell, Bradley Chubb, and Myles Garrett. There's a lot of hits on here, guys, not many misses. But I thought that's a way we could approach it. Buck, I'll start with you. Let's work back 2017 to present. And let's start with Myles Garrett, Buck. He was the first overall pick. I don't know how you can argue anything other than he's been even better than advertised.
Yeah, I would say he's been better than advertised. Because I don't know if you remember that draft. It was Derek Barnett and Myles Garrett playing in the same conference. And there was conversation about Derek Barnett's production versus Myles Garrett. But then when you look at Myles Garrett's athleticism, his physicality, all the tools that he brought to the table, look, he was the obvious choice as the number one pick. He's exceeded expectations. Look, when you take a number one pick, you're thinking, hey, man, this guy's going to be a perennial all-pro player. He's going to dominate the game and these things. But when Trent Williams, a perennial all-pro tackle, says this guy is a gold jacket guy, a Hall of Famer, that's exactly what you want from your number one overall pick. What he did against the Indianapolis Colts is just a continuation of what he does, it appears, each and every week. He dominates the game. And in Jim Schwartz's scheme, where we've really seen him showcase, he has taken his game up a notch. This is a remarkable player. He's one of the best players that we've seen in a long time. He might be the best player at his position, and that's saying a lot given the pass rushers that are in this league.
Yeah, I mean, and that was a no-brainer, right? I mean, that was that felt like that pick had consensus. I know you were talking about the production with Barnett and kind of comparing that, but it felt like projecting his pros. I mean, you just felt like Garrett was going to be the one, and I think we even talked about it, in terms of gold jacket players in a draft class. Myles Garrett certainly had that build, his frame, his athleticism. It's all just freakish. And I think the way that Jim Schwartz is kind of helping him continue to unlock and find the best ways to attack opposing offenses, man, that's a heck of a combination. And the Browns are going to be in a real good position to find their way into the postseason because of it.
Yeah, I think that one's a no-brainer. I think that was the right pick. It's exceeded expectations. He's on a Hall of Fame track, which is what you hope. I remember Dave Gettleman saying the year they picked Saquon Barkley, when you pick up in the top 5, you don't want a starter, you don't want a Pro Bowler, you want a gold jacket guy, and I think Myles Garrett is definitely on that track. The next one, 2018, we have Bradley Chubb, and to kind of refresh you on that draft, I pulled it up right here. 2018, so that was Baker Mayfield, Saquon Barkley, Sam Darnold, Denzel Ward. Bradley Chubb was 5, and then right after him was Quentin Nelson and Josh Allen, Roquan Smith. Those are the next couple picks. But Rhett, when you look at Bradley Chubb, he's been traded. Obviously, they got their money back with what they got in compensation from the Miami Dolphins. But just your take on Bradley Chubb, has he been as good as advertised?
I would kind of say as advertised, right? I don't think it's been better than advertised, and I certainly don't think it's been worse. Although, you think if you are as advertised and if you're, at a premier position and you're drafted in the top 5, that, man, your team's not going to want to let you go. Now, I know you talked about getting the value back, and there's been some extenuating circumstances with the way things have transpired in Denver. But I think I'd be hard-pressed at this time to say that, like, he's had – a Myles Garrett type exceeding expectation run so far in his career. I guess that's still possible. And look, I think, now, he's got a great opportunity to play with a number of really good defenders up front for the Dolphins that could only help what he brings to the table, Buck.
Yeah, it can only help what he brings to the table. You would like to see him dominate to the level that you see in Myles Garrett, but he's been a really good player. You want to see more of that. The Dolphins will need more of that if they're going to be the team that they want. But in terms of his physicality, toughness, his ability to come off the edge, remember he also had a knee injury that kind of slowed him down. He's still working his way back into the form that we've seen him play previously. If he gets back to that level, you certainly are pleased with everything that he's delivered as a top pick.
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, I think it's maybe as advertised, if not maybe a little less. I mean, he's missed time. I mean, Buck, you touched on it, the injuries. He's missed a good amount of time during his career. He has one double-digit sack season, which was his first. So he's been good. I definitely don't think he's exceeded expectations, and maybe a little bit below expectations. We don't need to spend a long time on 2019 with Cleve Farrell. I mean, that was a miss. I think we've documented that a bunch on here over the years. He was, he was somebody who was not rated that highly, and then just went higher than he should. And he's been a little bit better here since he's changed teams, but not worth a top 5 pick. Quinnen Williams, Buck, the 3rd pick in that draft in 2019. You have Nick Bosa. We can combine those together, but Quinnen Williams and Bosa, they've both been paid. They were both top 3 picks in the same draft class, and man, they feel like home runs.
Yeah, they do feel like home runs. And I would say Quinnen Williams was more of the mystery at the position because Quinnen Williams was a backup player early at Alabama, really just had that one season of production before he entered the draft. And so you wondered, is he a one-year wonder or will he be the dominant player that he has become with the New York Jets? The thing about Williams that's really most impressive is the last 2 seasons, he has really taken his game up a notch in terms of his pass rush skills, his disruption, playing harder with more effort, more energy, and really more dominance on a down-by-down basis. And because of that, he's kind of the point on the sword when it comes to this defense. Dominant player inside. And we've talked about the league is now where instead of having 2 outside rushers, you want a dominant rusher outside and somebody inside. Quentin Williams fills the bill as the prototype interior rusher that every defense wants.
Yeah, and I think, for Quentin Williams, I think I have an even greater appreciation for what he's done, because I think the first, year or two that he was in the league, you're kind of like, are we going to get there? Is it going to come? Is that potential that he has going to develop into production? And I think certainly since Robert Saleh has come in as head coach and the way that they end up using him in the interior as just an absolute force disruptor, I think obviously he's worked, his butt off to get to this point. And now it's all coming together. And so, I mean, that is an absolute home run of a pick there for sure. And I think it kind of tells you, you get the right pieces around, the right coaching, the right development, and you instill the right mindset in a player, and he's got that will to get better. You're gonna see that production. So for sure, exceeded expectation.
Yeah, I think with him and Bosa, those are easy. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to watch either of those defenses play and see those are the centerpieces for those teams and 2 of the best defenses in the NFL at that. All right, now it gets tricky. If we're going I'm putting on my paper here, plus, minus, or 0. So a 0 means we're just leveling out. They meet expectations, haven't been better, haven't been worse. Myles Garrett is a plus. Bradley Chubb, we're going to say, is a 0. Cleveland Farrell is a minus. Then we've got a plus with Quentin Williams, a plus with Nick Bosa. Guys, I think Chase Young, just because even though he's off to a good start, on his way to a double-digit sack year and a walk year, his 5th option was not picked up. For what the expectation was, I think that was clearly of all of these. Cleveland Farrell's in his own category, but the expectations for Chase Young, man, they have not been met, Buck.
No, they've not been met. And, there are questions with him coming out about the work ethic, the desire, and all those other things. And so you just kind of wonder what's going on in that building, because the fact that they decided not to pick up his 5th-year option, despite some of the success that he had early in his career, to me is quite telling. I'm not surprised, though, in a money year, a contract year, after being snubbed like that he's playing to the level that he's played this year. The thing about it, the difference between good and great, the great guys bring it each and every week. We haven't seen that from Chase Young consistently throughout his career, which is why it is a little disappointing when you take someone that high that they haven't given you that kind of performance and that kind of production.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question on that one. This next group, we're going to put them together here, and we can go through all 3. I think all 3. Well, I'll say 2 of the 3 have been absolutely as advertised. Kayvon Thibodeau, I think, even been a little bit better. I think you're starting to see him starting to get things figured out. He's played well. He's been disruptive. Aiden Hutchinson's been a home run for where they, what they did there and where they got him. Home run plus, no question. I think we're all on the same page with those 2. Trayvon Walker is a weird one, because you could look at the stats and sack production and say, maybe this has been a disappointment. But Buck, I think he's been exactly who we said he was going to be. He's been a dominant run defender, and he's been a little bit more of a disruptor than somebody who's been ultra productive as a pass rusher. He was taken, obviously, with the first pick, so there's expectations that come with the first pick. But for what we evaluated him as, I think he's been exactly what we thought he was going to be.
Yeah, and I've tried to say this whenever I had to talk about him down in Jacksonville. To me, he's more of a Jadeveon Clowney type than anything else. And with Jadeveon Clowney, the conversation has always been about, but the sack production isn't this. But you're talking about a guy who's been an all-pro player, a Pro Bowl player, due to his ability to disrupt the run game. Trayvon Walker is about as big and as physical as you'll find as a guy that sets the edge against the run. He disrupts, he runs it down from behind. And even though the sack production isn't what you want, the Jaguars are one of the top run defenses because of what he does on the edge. And the physicality, the toughness that he's added to that defense, you want more for a guy that's number 1 overall, but I can't sit here and say he's a disappointment. He's just a different style edge play that has gone number 1 than what we're used to seeing. Normally, we're seeing guys that get sacks in bunches. He's not that guy, but he's very effective for what the Jaguars are asking him to do on the edge.
Well, and I think that's an important part of the conversation, right? Because, our expectation is one thing, but where is he in terms of what the Jags actually expected from him? Did they expect him to be a 15-sack guy as a number 1 overall pick? Did they expect him to be the guy, opposite, Josh Allen at times that could, get home and be that absolute disruptor off the edge, against tackles, or is he giving them exactly what they hoped that he was going to? So I think, and Bucky, you probably know better than all of us here, but that to me kind of frames the discussion on Trayvon Walker, because, if we're talking about hitting doubles with first-round picks, and obviously number 1, you'd like to squeeze a triple out of that thing, or maybe hit a home run. But yeah, I do, I do feel like Aiden Hutchinson, though, has not only exceeded our expectation, perhaps from the external side, but he is exactly what the Lions wanted, and I think production-wise has maybe given them even more than they expected early on in his career. You want to talk about home runs and fitting the mentality of a coach and a franchise and giving, I don't know if there's a player, that maybe shouldn't say it that way, but man, 100% effort all the time and elite athleticism and pass rush skills. I mean, he's stuffing the stat sheet in other categories too. He's an absolute star.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's a home run pick. And look, I know Trayvon Walker's been a good player in terms of what he does against the run and was kind of what they're looking for. They should have taken Aiden Hutchinson. He would have been a real difference maker on the opposite side of Josh Allen. I don't think I'm standing out of bounds to say that. Will Anderson has 1 sack. He's the first overall pick from 2023. But he's played well. He's been very disruptive. He doesn't have the sack total. I would put him kind of in that as expected line. I don't think he's exceeded that, but he's been really solid, even though the sack numbers aren't great. So when you look at this list, the point I want to get to here is a pretty high batting average for guys at that position, defensive linemen drafted in the top 5. Cleveland Farrell stands out as the one who is just a miss, but outside of that, and Chase Young, has been injuries probably more than anything else. But those are the ones you would look at and say, man, there's maybe some regret there with those 2 picks. But all the rest of these guys have been at least as advertised, if not above what the expectations were. So I think that's it's interesting when you look at the hit rates at different positions up top. Buck, I don't know that we should be surprised, but this translates. We say it, the production, the athleticism, what you see in college at that position, and you take a guy up there, it usually translates pretty well.
Yeah, it does. We haven't seen many egregious misses. You talked about Farrell, but outside of that, if we're taking a pass rusher in the top 5, they've all had some kind of impact, whether as a pass rusher or as a run defender that gives you some of that splash production. You love that. And it's a sign of the times. We talked about this being a passing league where we build the teams around the 4 Ps: passers, pass rushers, playmakers, and pass protectors. Those are the guys that should come off the board in the first round. And we're seeing those pass rushers, they deserve to come off the board in the top 5 because they are the most impactful players when it comes to disrupting the most impactful player, the quarterback. They have the biggest impact. You got to have the pass rushers to get it done.
And as we've said many times on here, it's not a secret that if you look at the best defenses in the NFL, several of them are anchored by the guys on this list. They're premier players at premier positions, and they help lead some of the most dominant defenses in the NFL. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We've got a little more work to do here. Going to look at the Thursday night game between the Bucs and the Bills right after this.
Hey everyone, Scott Hansen here, and this is NFL Plus, where you can catch every play all in one place. You get access to live, local, and primetime games on your mobile phone and tablet. That's every in-market game with you on the go.
I never knew that was a thing.
Oh, yeah. And here's my favorite part. You can stream NFL RedZone live every Sunday. What are you waiting for?
Game time, baby. Let's go.
Go to plus.nfl.com. Sign up today.
All right, we got a big Thursday night game here. A game that I don't want to say must win, but golly, the Buffalo Bills, after what we saw last week against the New England Patriots, they have got to bounce back at home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs come in at 3-3. The Bills, I would say, a disappointing 4-3, Buck. When you look at them, I know we talked earlier in the week about the the disappointment and how they played and what went wrong against the Patriots, but what needs to go right on this short week for them to get back in the win column?
It has to be about whatever you need to do to unlock Josh Allen. We can talk about playing complementary football and those things. In these moments, DJ, it's about giving the ball to your best players and letting your best players have the biggest impact on the game. Josh Allen is unquestionably one of the top quarterbacks in the National Football League. He can do a bunch of things with his legs and arm. Well, now it's on Ken Dorsey to make sure that he puts Josh Allen in a position to do things that are very comfortable for him. To me, this is a Josh Allen game plan. Josh, what do you like? How much do you want to run? What big plays do you think are available out there? All right, let's do it, because this is a must-win for the Buffalo Bills. Not necessarily for them to stay in the race, but for their confidence. If they're going to be a team that believes that they can compete for a title, they have to be able to knock the Tampa Bay Buccaneers out the box in a primetime game.
Yeah, I kind of feel like this is a game where, we really need to kind of take a look at where the Bills are with Ken Dorsey running this offense. The last couple of years now since, Brian Daboll has been gone, and it's just kind of felt like the rhythmic nature of the way that the Bills used to operate. And obviously, yeah, they were explosive and they'd take shots down the field. They still do that to a certain extent, but it just kind of feels like there's something disjointed with the way that the Bills offense has been run the last couple of years, which has amounted to Josh Allen at certain points in games trying to feel like he's got to put it on himself to go out and generate those victories and find that winning edge. And, a lot of times that hasn't worked out for him. So, I just feel like consistently we just have not seen enough from this Bills offense in terms of the way that they want to attack and the way that they're structured to go out there and find winning football. So I think this will be a big test for them to kind of figure that out against a pretty darn good defense.
Yeah, it is a good defense, but man, I keep hearing people talk about the Bills and balance, and you got to run the ball, and we got to try and take some of that pressure off Josh Allen. I have the opposite approach. I would like to see a game in this one where they script the first 15. Let's just throw the ball 15 times in a row to start the game. Let's get back in the gun. Let's get Josh Allen back in that kind of attacking mode here. Go empty, get the ball out of his hands. Just get some tempo, get some rhythm, and just say, I would just say, hey, we're going to come out, we're going to chuck it. We're going to come out and throw the football. We're going to put it on Josh Allen. Let's stop worrying about turning it over. Let's stop worrying about having balance. You're one of the elite players in this league. Go out there and win us a football game. We're better. Our guys, even though it's a good defense with Tampa, our guys are better than their guys. That's what I want to see from the Buffalo side of things. And then from the Tampa side of things, Buck, I want to see him. You might as well just try and sell out and go get him. Play aggressive. That's when you're at your best. Play aggressive, dial it up, and go after him.
What I hear from you, DJ, is players, not plays. Put the ball in the hands of your best player, who is Josh Allen, and let him go to work. When you talk about going empty packages and shotgun and, hey, Josh, go do your thing, that's what you're encouraging him to do. Hey, man, we can't do this by just drawing it up and in diagrams. Josh, we need you to be the superhero that you've been for us for so many years. Let's go. And this will not only energize Josh Allen, but it could mean more production for Stephon Diggs, because if Josh Allen is throwing it the first 15 plays, number 14 is going to get a handful of those. He is going to get going, and that's going to energize the entire offense. Sometimes as coaches, we make it way too complex. My players are better than your players. I'm going to give it to my best players over and over again, and at some point, they're going to take it over. That's football, and that's the way that the Buffalo Bills have to do it. Keep it simple. Give it to the players. Let them go win it.
Didn't we do that last year, though? And that's how we ended up with 17 interceptions? Wait a second. Hold on. I'm not trying to pour.
I'm not trying to pull. There's a lot of red zone goofs in that last year.
All right.
But that's who he is. That's how he plays.
Rhett,
you think you put the governor on Josh Allen, you're going to get the best Josh Allen? I don't.
No, I'd love to see it, because I love watching the dude play.
He's different.
It's truly. I'd love to see it. Isn't there a way that we can kind of structure this out a bit where it just feels a little bit more nuanced, perhaps for Buffalo. So I'm not saying that they got to start running the football more. I'm just saying it feels like a collection of pieces instead of a steady diet of plays. I don't know. But yeah, let's chuck it.
I got this. I got this. You know what, DJ? You know what Rhett needs? Rhett needs to coach his little guys in a little flag football, because what Rhett is doing.
Yes.
He's talking about, hey, everybody get a little ball and everybody do this. And then what Rhett will do with a bunch of 7 and 8 year olds, real quickly after 3 weeks, hey guys, y'all get the ball every time. Everybody else block and get out the way.
Let's go.
I'm tired of losing. Because that's what this is.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's true.
Josh Allen throws it 60
the only
times.
problem
Diggs has 40 targets. Why not?
The only problem is, Buck, is Rhett's a nicer guy. As I've told many times, I've played 7-on-7 against Rhett at the
That's
Manning
right.
Passing Academy. And while I was playing the same kid at quarterback and making him throw to the same kid at wideout every single snap and going up and down the
Get
field,
everybody
Rhett was
involved.
equal opportunity. You get to play over here. Hey, you play some quarterback for us. Like, he's too nice of a guy. He's too nice of a guy, Rhett. That's your problem. You're just too dang nice.
That's why I'm untradeable.
That's right. That's
True.
right. Team player.
True. True. That's why we keep you
That's
around.
it. Well, again,
you're a glue
be
guy. You're a glue
be on
guy.
the lookout for that game Thursday night. We'll see if the Buffalo Bills have a get-right game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right, that's going to do it for us. Appreciate you guys hanging with us, and we will see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.